Hi, my name is Alan Edwards, and in this development blog video I'm going to show you how to create soundscapes. Now, soundscapes are a source concept, and it means that you can make really immersive, reusable sound definitions that you can just place in levels, and they affect a player up to a certain radius. So I'd recommend you watch this video with headphones. I'm going to show you a quick demo now in this forest level. I'm just going to hit play and you'll see what I mean. So you can hear, as I walk around, there's a constant ambient sound coming through stereo, but there are also different sounds scattered throughout the level. So there's a woodpecker. I'm actually printing on the screen where the sound appears when you're running in debug mode, but when you're actually playing, it's very immersive. You hear there's some slight reverb as well. The Soundscape allows you to define that. So that's the example. And these sounds are basically defined in a single place in a blueprint and then played up to a certain radius around the player. So I'm going to dig into how that works. So firstly, it's probably good to look at the one in this level. Let's see if I can find it. I think that's it. I'm not actually in the ambient level. Let's just enable that. There we go. So here's the current soundscape. It's currently selected with forest large. So that's the soundscape in this area. So we can look at that. And in the background, this one has forest ambience birds 3. We can go and listen to that. So this is just a stereo asset that I picked up from the marketplace actually. Just a forest with birds in the background. Quite immersive on its own, but we can make it even better with the soundscapes. This one also has the reverb defined, so tiny reverb, you get a little bit in the forest. And then we have this array of random sounds. So we've got raven, woodpecker, golden eagle, thrush, reed bunting, stone chat. I'm not well versed on birds, but we've also got a random delay defined here, and also another layer of random sound. So the deer that you heard, that plays randomly between 15 and 30 seconds, and what have we got here? Insects. That's another one that plays between 10 and 15 seconds, and I think this one's grass whip. So all of these sounds here are actually got from the kite demo content. So if we switch to that, you'll see that if you go to kite demo, this is available on the marketplace. Kite demo, audio, ambient elements. You get a bunch of not only really nice stereo ambiences, but also these nice random ambient sounds you can put in the background. So I took all of these, sorted them, and made sound cues for each of these, so that I could put them in the Soundscape manifest and have them played randomly. So these are very useful. There's also a few other epic pieces of content that have sounds in that you can also take for this kind of purpose, but I think for this level they're quite immersive. So I'm going to open up the base blueprint. So this is kind of the manifest. Now there's no code involved in this. This is all blueprints. So if we go to edit this one, you can see that this is my base class, BP Soundscape type. It inherits from object. It's not an actor. And this has properties on it. It doesn't have any logic. So it has the ambient loop. That's just a sound base. That's what you define when you define a soundscape asset. Volume multiplier, reverb, and the layers. Now the layers are, this is a struct. So if I go back to my blueprint, soundscapes, you can see that we have soundscape set. So this is one layer essentially. So it has that delay in there, which is also a struct, just a min-max struct. It has the minimum float and maximum float. It also has random sounds. So these are just sound, this is an array of sound base. So this is just kind of holding the data. So we've got that forest lodge, we've got the cavern wind here, which doesn't have any layers. It just defines the a cave loop and some reverb. I think there's a few others here. So there's room. Some of these, I mean, I haven't had time to fill these out really with anything. So they're just kind of placeholders for now. So that's the soundscape type. So they all inherit from that. And the actual thing that you put in the level here is soundscape actor. So this is all of the logic of the soundscape. So probably better to, where should we start with it? Probably better to see what happens on begin overlap. Or actually, let's start at begin play. So when we start playing, right now this could change, but this is how it's working at the minute. So it lazily constructs the soundscape. Before I was doing this on begin overlap, so the lazy in that made a little bit more sense. But this is another event that just constructs the soundscape instance if it's not constructed already. And the reason I'm doing it at runtime is that if you do it in the construction script and cache it away in the blueprint, then every time you change the actual soundscape, you need to run the construction script on the actor, which is, it doesn't really work very well when you're editing the levels and stuff. So so we construct it at runtime and then just cache the instance away in the blueprint. So the actual soundscape defined on this, on the actual actor in the level, the thing that you can see from the drop down, is a class of type BP soundscape. Or soundscape base, I think it's chopping it off. Or soundscape type, yeah, the thing we just looked at. So it constructs it. What else does it do? It builds the layer timings. So because I was having some problems with doing this with delay nodes and timers and stuff, I thought the cleanest way is to build up this array of timings. So the initial build-up adds entries for each layer in there. So you can have multiple layers, and the layers can play on top of each other potentially, but each layer can only play one sound at once. That was the limitation that I thought would be a good one, really. And the way it's calculated the timing is that random delay is added to the length of the sound. So this timings array is initially built up of all the things from the soundscape instance set layers. So it loops through that and adds an array element to the timings array for each thing. And it uses this little helper method, get random set time. And that's just a function on here that looks at that. We have one random instance here, so this is kind of predictable random that we can seed. But it looks at the set delay here, gets random min max, which is another helper method. It just takes a random structure and gets the random min max from it. Let's go back. Oops, sorry, that's our helper there. And we'll go back here to the event graph. A little bit difficult to navigate. So then at the end you get essentially an array with one, well, the length of the set layers array, but with timing. So the initial timing is when it will play the next sound. So for instance, if we had two layers here and the random delay for the first layer was between 1 and 2 seconds, the random delay for the second layer was 5 to 10 seconds, then the timings array would be, for instance, the first entry would be maybe 1.5, the second entry would be 7.5, saying that in 1.5 seconds it would play a sound from the first layer randomly. The second time it hit it, it would play, in 7.5 seconds it would play a sound randomly from the second layer. So it builds up that array there, and then it sets the ambient loop from the constructed soundscape. Because this is all happening at runtime, nothing was set up in the construction script, so there is actually no sound associated with this ambient loop. So it sets up that with the sound, sets up the volume multiplier, and then activates it. So that's what happens on begin play. When the actor actually enters into it, so in this case the player can only collide with this at the minute. We make sure we've lazily constructed it. That's actually redundant now. I can get rid of that because it's always happening on begin play. So it goes into the sequence, it sets the listener. Now setting the listener is important because we need to know where the player is at all times to generate a bounding box around the player in which to randomize the sounds played. We set the tick on the actor enabled. Tick I think is set to not every frame. Oh, it is every frame at the minute. Okay, well we could actually shorten that, it's not necessary. Or lengthen it, sorry. We also activate the reverb effect. So the Soundscape instance defines this reverb property, which we were talking about earlier, and there is a helper in gameplay statics to just activate that with a tag name. And the tag name, I'll go into what the construction script does in a second, but this is basically a random GUID and it lives with the life cycle of the actor. So when it activates this reverb effect, it activates it with a GUID. This actor owns that GUID and it's the only one that can deactivate that reverb effect. So that's active begin overlap. So let's have a look at on tick. Every tick, it loops through this built timings array. It gets the game time in seconds. If the game time is greater than that specific timing that we're on, then it gets the layer at the same index. So remember, there are as many timings as there are set layers. So the index is also valid in the set layers. So it goes ahead and gets the set layer that we're currently on. Then I've got this method play sound set. So that just gets the sound array from that set. It gets a random one. That's another little helper method we've got there. Where are we? And then plays the sound at a location. Now, I use this get random point method. So the get random point is another helper method here that looks at the listener. So the listener in this case is the player that overlaps the trigger. It gets the actor bounds, so the bounds of the actual player, which is a box. And then it adds this listener box extent to it. So what you end up with is the player's bounding box, but add 512 on the X and Y, but on the Z axis, up and down, it only adds 128 because we don't really want sounds playing very far below the player or very high above, at least for now. So then it uses this is a helper function inside the engine, random point and bounding box, to get a random point in there. So there's that. So let's go back to the event graph. So we've played the sound now, we've played a random sound at a random location, but we now need to go and change that entry in the timings array so it has a different random sound time in the future. So it uses this get random set time method. It goes ahead and adds that to the duration of this sound. So remember this plays a sound, but it also exits immediately. So it goes into here, then all of the sound is set up and it starts playing, but then it exits immediately. It doesn't wait for the sound to complete. So we just add the duration of the sound to a random set time and add that back into the timings array at that specific index. So the timings array entry was overwritten by the entry that we just added there, the duration plus random time. And that's what you're hearing. I'll go on, let's look at actor end overlap. It just disables tick and disables the reverb that we added using this tag. That actually has the value of it, you can see the GUID there. So that's it. There's not a lot more to this. Yeah, I showed you that one. I will look at the construction script as well. So here's the construction script. Firstly, it switches on the Soundscape shape. So here I made it so you can define different types of shapes for this. So this one here is box. I can put a sphere here, and then you define that with different set of parameters here, which is a little bit, not hacky, but it's not nice from a level designer's perspective, so that'd be nice to change. There's also a capsule and that's it for now. So if we go into the construction script again, it's switching on this shape. For whichever one, it adds the collision element for that. So you end up with the this, which can actually generate overlap events. It's setting up the sphere radius here. What's it doing here? Oh yeah, it also sets the attenuation shape on. Oh yeah, this is a method that I define. That's why I don't recognize it. It also sets the attenuation shape depending on the collision size. So if you look at this, it's grabbing the ambient loop, grabbing the attenuation override struct. Ooh, that's not very nice. It takes the fall off distance, which is defined on this actor, and it's adding that in this struct. So we're setting the attenuation shape, the shape extents, fall off distance. So the shape that we're kind of, the attenuation shape that we have in the editor here now matches this ambient loop sound. So everything matches up. So it kind of automatically works, which is quite good. What else are we doing in the construction script? I think it's just calculating a GUID. So it says new GUID to string, and then make it a name. And that's all that does. So that's basically the sound actor. So I'm just going to let you listen to it again. You can hear the grass whipping, blackbird, whitethroat, grass whip again, wood bunting. There's the deer. That really freaks me out. So you can see how this is quite immersive now for this scene. And this level will be landing in a future update for Estranged. I think I'll leave the video there. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments or email me directly at alan@alanedwards.com. Thank you very much for watching.